no one is ready for what's happening with the Toronto Raptors because this team positioned itself to take a massive leap going into next season. And now we are seeing flashes of the brilliance, of the greatness that is getting put together with actual role players around this young core group. And despite the best efforts of Darko Rajaković, obviously under control, management, direction from Masai, Ujiri, Bobby Webster, to pursue this sort of rebuild, this take, this development. We'll talk about something that was glaring in this game against the Phoenix Suns out there on that front. But despite the best efforts, this team is just too talented to lose on certain nights. Of course, there'll be highs and lows. I'm sure, the Suns have also been a messy team over the course of the season, but what we just witnessed over the last 3 hours of the Raptors beating this Phoenix Suns team just has me even more amped, even more excited about the direction, the future, everything that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team. So we're going to break down this game, what the storylines are happening, and why all Toronto Raptors fans should be elated, excited, and amped up about what's happening with this Raptors squad. But folks, before we dive into that, again, over 69% of our viewers that are tuning into the vids, enjoying the content. I see you guys, new viewers coming in through the waves. If you guys have not hit the subscribe button just yet and you want to be along for the ride with what projects to be a very exciting era in Toronto Raptors basketball, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. It's free. It's down below. Hit that button. But let's dive into what's going on with this Raptors team because, frankly, I am just amped up with what's been happening with this squad. Of course, made a video yesterday in regards to RJ Barrett, him getting disrespected by a portion of the fan base, saying that he should go, he should leave. He's the odd man out, especially if we get a top draft pick for this year. Well, RJ Barrett once again has had a phenomenal performance, has had a phenomenal game for this Raptors squad against the Phoenix Suns tonight, putting in 23 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 of 15 shooting from the field. We'll talk about, because Scottie Barnes and Immanuel Quickley for the most of this game ended up having a stronger streak. But at the end of this one, RJ Barrett just went absolutely on fire. That man was cooking. That man was unstoppable. Knocking down threes, contested, whatever the heck it was. RJ Barrett continues to show, during the clutch because there were moments. The Raptors won this one 127 to 109. So you might look at that and be like, hey, this is a handled victory. This was what it was. And yes, the Raptors were up for a large portion of this game. But during down the last 4 or 5 minutes, the Suns are making a comeback. They're hitting some shots, and RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley really put an end to what was happening there on that front. So, I made a whole video on this, so I won't ramble on about it too much out here in this vid, but RJ Barrett deserves his respect. He deserves his credit and should not be a guy that's thrown out there in trade talks and trade rumors. So I'm throwing that out there at the jump, but Immanuel Quickley is a guy that has been sort of overlooked by a huge portion, by a huge chunk of the fan base over the course of the season because he's been out of the lineup. It makes sense. He hasn't been playing, and we haven't had a full sample size of what Immanuel Quickley actually looks like in a Toronto Raptors jersey. But now it looks like he's coming into his own. He's getting into a rhythm and proving to Toronto Raptors fans why he got paid that massive contract out there in the offseason. As IQ tonight, really, again, just showing off that three-point shot, 5 of 7 from out there from the three-point line, 7 of 15 from the field, 23 points, had 6 boards, had 8 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, and showing that, these are the games where you look at this and you're saying, hey, I get the injury stuff, I get this, but Immanuel Quickley is a starting point guard in the NBA and an upper-tier starting point guard when he is shooting at this level. And it's the burst that he has with the basketball, but that knockdown three-point shooting that really sets him apart from your average NBA starting guard. And if he could continue to stay healthy, continue to stay on the court and get into those rhythms, and that will be huge. And one guy I do want to bring up as well is Scottie Barnes because, Scottie, of course, he's had some ups and downs on the offensive end, his shooting, all this type of stuff. Well, tonight, before I dive into any of the stats, because they were good, Scottie Barnes' defense out there on Kevin Durant was absolutely outstanding. It was phenomenal. He is really, through good games and bad, he has taken a massive step up in regards to, his defense abilities. Because KD, who's, averaging close to 30 this season, put in only 15 points, 5 of 15 shooting, 0 of 5 from the three-point line. And these weren't just KD, old, washed, whatever. He played 40 minutes, so he got some extended run. Scottie Barnes was in his grill. The entire Raptors team, it's by committee. It's not just one person, but the entire team did a phenomenal job out there on Kevin Durant, locking him up and just doing what they needed to do to really shut that stuff down. So his defense was phenomenal, but then also on the offensive end, brought 20 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 of 14 shooting. Like, Scottie Barnes is showing why the team decided to build around him, so that's great to see. Gradey Dick knocked down a couple shots. Again, hasn't been that takeover guy, but it's nice to see him hitting 75% of his threes in a game. Orlando Robinson has taken advantage of the opportunities he's been given with Jakob Poeltl out of the lineup, now out there in the starting unit, 10 points, 7 rebounds tonight, anchoring the defense pretty well. But one of the funny narratives, the funny storylines from this game, from this one, of course, we've been talking about the benches a bit better, but Chris Boucher, he's a guy that was in a bunch of trade rumors, in a bunch of trade discussions, in all these things. I'm not sure if he'll be back next season. I'm hoping he's back with the Toronto Raptors, made that known, but he had a phenomenal second quarter. This man exploded, just looking better than Kevin Durant out there, just outclassed Kevin Durant out there, especially the offensive end, and then I don't have do I got the image here? Darko Rajaković decides at the end, in the third quarter, let's sit Boucher, let's not give him that much run, not give him that much opportunities, and then, the Suns, of course, go on a big run out there in the third quarter. You sub Boucher back in at the end of the third, and, and for the fourth quarter, and then, the Raptors continue their push. And, of course, Chris Boucher is awesome at basketball, and tonight was just absolutely on fire himself. Had 23 points in this game, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 9 of 12 shooting. But the thing that this really indicates is because I love Mobo, I love the Rooks, how they're developing, Ochai, all of these types of players. I'm very, very high on these guys, but they're young, they're developing, they haven't come into their own just yet. So when you have guys like Chris Boucher out there, and of course we saw it throughout January with Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, all these type of vets that are veteran role players, when they're out there in the lineups with the young core that we have, and Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, these types of guys, this team is ferocious. This team is on another level. And Chris Boucher doing what he did tonight, and him being in the lineup, out of the lineup, how it affected the sort of pace of the game, it's clear. It's clear in terms of what was going on there with the Raptors at that point. And it's just great to see. And of course, there's some people that are going to be disappointed because this season has been talked about, it's been brought up on, hey, we're trying to tank. We're trying to get Cooper Flag to add another star piece to this young core. That's what the direction is for this Raptors squad. And I feel you. I've been on that wave too to start the season, but looking at what the reality of what's happening here now at this point is, and Chris Boucher also does stay on his point. He had his 404th game past Vince Carter in franchise history. He also had a monster game, so that's great to see. But more in line with the discussion points. Toronto, bottom 5 seed right now in the entire NBA. So top 5 draft odds to acquire the top overall pick. The schedule to close out this season is not looking too difficult. The Raptors have a lot of easy wins at their plate because, again, the next week actually might be a little bit tough, with the Pacers, the Celtics. The Bulls have been really bad, but the Magic, they're getting back healthy a little bit. But you got the Bulls in there, Utah, Washington, Philadelphia, Portland, like a lot of teams that are losing a ton of games as of late. Like the Sixers on a 7-game losing streak. And news just came out that they're considering sitting Joel Embiid out for the rest of the season, which is makes a ton of sense for them. But the Bulls have been losing a ton of these. There's a lot of teams just losing a ton of basketball out there, and the Raptors are facing up against them. And frankly, the talent level that is on this team right now, the way that this team is playing, whether they win, lose, whatever the little tactics they do to kind of affect the outcomes of these games, it's going to be tough to stay on top, especially if the Sixers are overtly tanking, to stay ahead of that team out there in the tankathon standings. I mean, the Nets are there. The Bulls are a team that's coming in full force to try to pass. But frankly, I'm not too worried about it. I'm not too worried about it right now. Of course, I don't want us to make a giant play-in push and, lose the top odds completely. And I think that would be difficult in its own right. But this team right now, if they fall to 7th worst odds, sure, it does affect things. You go from 42% to 32% at a top 4 pick. You go from 10.5% to Cooper Flag to 7.5%. I mean, it's marginal impact, and we're worried about the development of this young team. We are worried about these young guys. As Darko Rajaković has come out and said it, we're worried about the development, and we can't just be sacking games to hope for like 4% better chance at this. It's not worth it because the odds are just going to flow the way they are anyways. So building things the right way. So next season, the start of next year, the young guys, this core is ready to make a proper playoff push, to make a serious noise out there in the Eastern Conference with Brandon Ingram added to the mix, whoever we add out there in the offseason. That's the route I want to go. But let me know what you guys think about all that in the comment section down below. You guys are the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.